I'm Rachel Klausner. I'm the founder and CEO of Millie. We are a workplace giving platform that lets companies of all sizes start social impact programs. And how did it come to life? Well, we definitely had a pivot story, like most startups. We were really focused on individual giving and how could we engage millennials, which is where our name Millie comes from, engage millennials in what we call strategic giving. So giving them this tool called a donor advised fund so that they could then give strategically, put money in, get the tax deduction up front and give it out over the course of the year. We quickly pivoted about, I want to say 6 months into even just like being around, we decided and made that decision that we were going to start building out tools for companies. We got pretty lucky. 2 local Boston companies came to us and were like, oh, can you build this for our team? We want to do like matching and all this other stuff. And we're like, oh, aren't there other tools for that? They're like, not for our size business. We're not like an enterprise business, so we don't qualify for the current tools out there. And we're like, wait a second. And so thankfully to those like 2 companies, it kind of just ended up becoming this really great guidepost that was like, okay, let's try this other path. We had no idea if it was going to be successful, what was going to come of it. But we pretty quickly ditched the individual route. It wasn't performing in the way that we wanted. It wasn't utilizing our skill sets. My background was in kind of B2B, business to business technology. So anyways, this made way more sense. So we pivoted to workplace giving and have never looked back. And it's been really fun to see companies engage their employees in giving. So what is Millie solving? I always like to say we are for companies of what we call all sizes. But if you are like a Fortune 100 company, we will probably send you to a competitor only because we really are going after and we're really trying to solve for workplace giving. So match programs, grant making, volunteering with employees, anything that would happen in the workplace around giving back. That is what our platform is all about. And what we're most successful at and doing is partnering with small, medium, mid-market size businesses. So if you're around 5,000 employees or less, we do a really good job at, that the platform's really for you and your team. And that's what we're solving for because, the incumbents, so to speak, the folks that have been in the space for a while, have really done a great job at solving for the large enterprise companies. And honestly have not really catered their product towards smaller businesses or even medium-sized businesses. And we want to make it easy to get up and running. So a lot of them have really long waits to get up and running because our software helps walk you through launching. You can get up and running as quickly as you'd like, which is awesome. It's also much less expensive. One of the things that we found very frustrating is that when we spoke to companies, they ended up spending the same amount of money on their software as they did on actually giving. So because the software that's out there costs so much money, and we were like, okay, yes, they can charge that much, but it makes no sense. Like, how can you like sleep at night knowing that like half of their budget for giving is going into the technology that's orchestrating it. And so that was a really conscious decision. So sometimes we've had a lot of conversations with now customers who have asked us like, well, why are you so much cheaper than these players that have been around for so long? You have the same amount of features. If not, you have some more features than they do. And we're like, no, it's because we know that like we only want to be a certain percentage, a small percentage of what you're giving totally. We don't want you to feel like half of your budget has to go to this. We want more money to go to the charity. And we know that's usually coming from the same budget. And so for us, that was really a conscious, important decision. And trust me, we've had a lot of conversations. The first time I told a company the price of what we charged, he literally said to me as the CMO of this company, and he was like, Rachel, I'm going to do you a favor. You need to up your prices. And I was like, thank you so much. I'm so like grateful for your like candid response, but I'm going to push back a little and say like, we're going to charge what we need to charge to, sustain the business. But at the same time, we really want to make sure that you're not carving out and giving us too much of the budget that really you want to give to charity. And so that's really a conscious decision that we make. And then the other piece that we're really trying to tackle is really all about participation. So what we've seen is the standard participation in these programs is very low. So the bar is very low. And if I shared some of those numbers, it would be like really, it's painstaking to hear, but basically around 10% of people that can participate in a match do. So there's a lot of money left on the table. And to us, that 10% number is just not acceptable. So for us, we're really trying to build out tools like our Slack integration. We're doing a few more integrations coming out in the next bunch of months, some gamified giving tools, a whole bunch of different tools that really focus on getting higher engagement, because the current status quo from the incumbent software it's just not okay. And so we want to make it really easy and engaging for a larger percentage of your team to give back with the company. Yeah, like a big part of what we're doing is really trying to figure out, like, how do we engage these teams? Like, what are teams? And we're really thinking outside the box. You'll see in the next year, we have a lot of tools. We came out with a Slack app. We were of the first that did Slack match programs like this. And we're constantly thinking about where are teams already, what will get them engaged. Because for us, the status quo is not okay. Like, yeah, we still could be growing our business and all this stuff, but if the match isn't getting utilized beyond that, 10, 11% number, I'm not gonna be happy. Like, I want to push us, and I want to push the industry to do better. And so we're definitely trying to think outside the box on different ways to engage teams that really move that number up. And we're kind of lucky in a sense, because we're dealing with smaller companies, right? Companies that are 1,000 employees, 500 employees, 50 employees. Those teams are much more engaged in general. And so that 11% is way higher. Like, our engagement rate is much higher, but still, like, I want to push us. Like, we need to really be at the forefront of those participation rates and helping pull the industry, right? I'm expecting, like with our Slack app, we came out with the Slack app. A few months later, we saw a bunch of competitors come out with the exact same Slack app with the exact same language. And, even in the messages, it's crazy. Incumbents and other players have copied those features because customers have asked, like, oh, well, they have this, can we have that too? That's great. We want that, right? We want more people to be adding these features that drive engagement. I think historically, the average, what we call match cap per employee, has been very high. So that's because most companies that have done match programs have been these large Fortune 500 companies. And so the average match cap is around $5,000, $10,000 per employee, which is so high. And so what we tell our customers is, don't start with that amount. Start with what you're comfortable with. It can be $100, $200 per employee. You can still have an overall company cap that's even lower. And don't feel like you have to do these huge numbers just to get people engaged. Your employee isn't going to judge you if you're doing a $5,000 cap or an $100 cap. It's just that giving together will be very powerful. It does not have to be an insane amount of money to do what it does, which is connect you as a company with your team and give back while you're doing it. So that's something that we've had to kind of push. And it'll be interesting to see over time if we really can convince people that they can do this for a lower amount of money, and their people will still feel super engaged. Honestly, I think a lot of the advice that was given to me by other founders has been the advice that I say over and over in my head to this day, which is like, being a founder is the craziest roller coaster. The highs are so much higher, the lows are so much lower than just doing your average job or, being a regular professional, and not being a crazy person and doing this. So I think that, to me, like, I constantly tell myself that, because I think it can be really hard when you get to one of those low points and you're like, should I keep doing this? Like, what am I doing? So I think that has been just I remember someone telling me that, and it's really helped me in some of those low moments, but also helped ground me in some of those high moments. And so just say, like, it's really nice to ride these high waves when a day, some days are amazing and you got like tons of deals closing and you feel like, oh man, we're really doing a good job here. But just note that, like, trying to be a little bit humble and realize that, that's one day, right? In the perspective of the week and the month and the year. And there will be days coming that will be more normal. And just to give yourself some perspective, because sometimes founders, myself included, you could have a great day and you could be like, okay, let's go hire those other few people. Like, let's go do those other things that we want to do. Like, okay, slow down. It's just one of those extra highs. And so just keeping to that, like trying to keep myself more level during those super highs and super low moments. I used to appreciate, the first thing I used to appreciate back in the day was like their passion. And then what I realized, for social impact, I should say, what I realized is there are a lot of people that are passionate about social impact. And so what I look for is, obviously that's baseline, right? You got to have that passion for social impact. That is key. But beyond that, I really look for people that are self-starters, and for people that like to wear a lot of hats. And that's because we're still at that startup phase, right? When you're a company that, and you're only a handful of people, or I would say if you're under 30 or 50 employees, like that's kind of the bar I usually set. Any team that's under that, if you're good at wearing a lot of different hats, you pitch yourself as that, because when you're still a small team, you want people that are willing to wear so many different hats, because the business is going to change, the business needs are going to change. And you want someone that can be flexible, because if you're not flexible at that early stage, that's where things, tend to break, because someone can't step in and wear that extra hat, or, oh, wow, we're pivoting to a whole different market. Or, I mean, it's startup world. Like it is, what it's like, it's crazy. And so I think that's one thing that I always, look for, is someone who's excited about wearing a lot of different hats, and also is very good at being, being their own boss in a sense, right? Obviously, like I want you to take direction well and all that, but honestly, if you can be like a go-getter on your own and you're going to just execute, and you don't need me to hold your hand, and you're just one of those people that's just driven, like just for the sake of drive and getting stuff done, like that is what I look for. The engagement around different cause areas definitely flows with news stories and with what's happening in the world. But it also flows with what's happening within the companies. So companies oftentimes run campaigns. We see some great engagement around campaigns. So there's definitely these, upticks. If a company is doing a veteran relief campaign, we'll see a lot more giving to veteran organizations within that company for that month. But then we also see general giving, like the annual match that folks still put out there. People still give to their local organizations that they're involved with and get that match from their employer. And it feels really good. It does. And it's really fun to hear the stories of employees who come to us and are like, thank you so much for doing this. And we're like, don't thank us, thank your employer. Like they're the ones that are orchestrated this, that put the money out there. Like people feel very connected when someone, their employer, is saying, we believe in what you believe in. Like if you're putting money towards a cause that you love, like we want to match that. And how powerful is that? And honestly, what a powerful way to bring your team together on a very low budget.